Gears 5, a game about shooting things in confined spaces and seeing the bleakest outcome play out through cutscenes, takes a very left turn in a way that it didn't need to by emphasising the open worlder that it introduces. It's one of those games that seems to think its new thing is revolutionary to the franchise, but really it puts so much emphasis on the two entire acts of the game that it actually appears in that I was convinced there was going to be something a little bit more to do in it. No, not really though, is there? It's just more of a funnel to get you from one combat sequence to the next, eventually culminating in a decision whether to continue exploring to progress the plot, or to find upgrades for your robot companion that by the time I finished the game, I think I only used like frequently to add defensiveness to when explosions or snipers were happening.
Oh yeah!
Look, I'm not gonna lie. It's real ugly out there.
It's a dead, desolate world, and I guess that sort of reflects on the Gears universe, that everything is holed up in cities that spread across, you know, the world of Serra, you know, instead of the deserts that would kill you in an instant with a lightning bolt, or the tundra areas that also seem to be equally stressful to inhabit. You know, it's great to do a dead open world. You only have to look at Nier Automata or Fallout 3 and 4, but the difference between Gears 5 and a Nier Automata, where even Nier Automata doesn't have a lot to do in it, it has something to say. Gears 5 has you drive a skiff about, and there's maybe one section of the whole game where you're put in some remote danger, and the open world actually shows some sort of character to itself.
It's dinner time, bitch!
The game is ultimately very sparse in subtext. I mean, it's a very story-heavy game without a lot to say in of itself, and I think the open world is a microcosm of this. Not every piece of fiction has to be this, you know, deep piece of fiction with something to analyse. Sometimes you can just have lady and guy go on an adventure and shoot some shit and discover things about themselves.
Agreed. I think I've seen enough of this place for today. Tomorrow. Wherever.
Let's get back to the skiff and see if we have a solid lead.
But when there's not a lot to do, the brain tends to reach for something, anything, outside of the story presented on the surface, and there's nothing in return here. The best act of the whole game is the fourth one, where you're back in a traditional Gears setting of exaggerated sci-fi gothic halls of their grim industrious cities. It sounds vastly more boring than, say, the frozen wastes of Serra, you know, which have factories and hidden lairs and stuff. But because it has structure that doesn't involve the skiff or traversing empty funnels of the world around you, it just feels better. A lot like the combat encounters that you find when you enter an area in the open world portions of the game, Gears 5 is at its best when it's siphoned off from what bogs it down. What doesn't bog it down though is the characters and the story, which are incredibly enjoyable. Kate and Del are amazing, basically. I think I would love to see more of them than ever see another bed scene in my entire life. You know, banter, conversation, and the moments that they share. It's just a shame that they're trapped in this world-ending scenario once again, instead of the more interesting thing that Gears 4 brought up, which was the inner workings of the overarching cog empire that is resurfacing and getting better at fascism. But no, you're ultimately dredging up horrors of the past, and, you know, the Swarm are bad, and we're doing the Queen needs to die thing again. Though, you know, looking at Gears of War 4 and 5, I'm incredibly impressed with the team behind it at the Coalition. Imagine getting an image of Gears of War 1, 2, and 3, and being told you've now got to turn that into something that has maybe the modicum of something interesting to say, or something that isn't that, you know, isn't the generic feeling of Gears of War. While I don't think they're successful in being anything but ham-fisted of the way that they told the story, you know, subtext and all, actually building characters out or fleshing out the problems of the previous generation in a way that makes them feel 3D rather than 2D, with a sprinkling of Mad World to help tug at the heartstrings. Gears 5 does an excellent job at breathing life into a franchise that re-emerged with JD as its face, the most generic, painful character I've ever had to endure.
That is a direct order.
Well, Captain, screw your order. This isn't about you, it's about me. I need to fix this.